Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we unpack your sources to uncover surprising facts and profound insights. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a really compelling case study. It comes from a listener, actually. Heartfelt questions about their beloved father's passing and, well, some extraordinary events that followed. We've got a rich stack of sources for this one. Lots of personal stories, vivid dreams, and questions that really touch on the big mysteries, life, death, what comes next. So our mission here is to navigate these experiences, pull out the core wisdom, and look at the spiritual concepts that kind of tie it all together. We'll start with the father's life, his final days, and then these unusual things that happened that left the family with so many questions. And then we'll explore the husband's meditation journey, those symbolic dreams he had. And finally, unpack the explanations for all this, hopefully bringing some clarity about the father's state and the nature of merit.
Yeah, what's really fascinating here is how a single personal story, can open doors to understanding these broader spiritual principles. Will connect these very unique experiences to that bigger picture, encouraging you to maybe consider different ways of looking at life, death, and the power of, intention.
Okay, let's start with the father.
Mhm.
So he was born in Ma Chai, came from a large family, pretty humble beginnings, learned to be self-reliant very young. His first job, it was in a paper factory in Bangkok. And he was incredibly proud, apparently, to use his earnings to support his family. Gave nearly all of it to his mother and siblings. He sounds like a truly dedicated family man, hardworking, always busy. Our listener mentioned how proud they were, especially hearing that their father even quit smoking instantly, just like that, for their pregnant mother, despite being initially quite irritated about it.
That really shows something, doesn't it? A strong will, definitely, and deep love for his family. That seems to be a consistent thread throughout his life.
Right. But there were other sides, too. While he quit smoking, he did continue to drink.
Yeah.
Initially, he'd bring friends home, they'd drink, and he'd become loud, boisterous when drunk, which was a big contrast to his usual quiet self.
And here's where it gets really interesting, like you said. The mother spoke to him about the kids growing up, the influence, and he stopped drinking at home completely. Which, again, highlights how responsive he was to family needs, even if he still drank sometimes at gatherings or when he was troubled, maybe using alcohol to express feelings he couldn't otherwise.
Possibly. And his spiritual views were, well, quite distinct. He didn't like making merit, didn't like going to temples or offering food to monks, often questioned his wife about why she did it. He believed that just, not doing bad things was enough, that would get you to heaven.
Ah, yes. That raises a really important question, doesn't it? Is just abstaining from negative actions the same as actively cultivating good? While not doing evil is, of course, a vital first step, it's not quite the same as performing good deeds, which is what actually accumulates merit, that positive energy. It's
Yeah.
a common perspective that not doing bad is enough, but often, spiritually incomplete if you're looking at the whole picture of progress.
So, moving towards the end of his life, he battled severe diabetes for 5 years, and his health was going downhill pretty rapidly. He eventually had to stop working, which must have been incredibly hard for a man who never seemed to stay still. Our listener describes a shift in his personality then. He became easily irritable, would cry like a child sometimes, started saying strange things. He even secretly started drinking again after having quit for years. And he held on to that belief that death is the end.
It's quite common, unfortunately, for people facing severe illness to go through these emotional, even behavioral changes. Returning to old habits, like the drinking, can be a coping mechanism, and the belief that death is the end, well, that could be a deep conviction, or maybe a way to find some kind of comfort in the face of the unknown.
Then on March 3rd, 2548, his last day, he did several unusual things. Cleaned the house, top to bottom, attached lots of wind chimes to the front door, telling his wife they sounded nice. He talked happily about our listener visiting regularly, but also sadly about his second older sister, not visiting much. That night, he argued with his wife, coughed heavily, slept downstairs on his favorite chair, and by 4 a.m. on March 4th, his mother found him, lifeless. So the listener asked, were these actions premonitions? Did he know?
Well, probably not the exact time, no. But did he have a strong feeling he wouldn't live much longer? Very likely, yes. Those actions, the cleaning, the chimes, expressing those feelings, it seems like his way of preparing, of settling things, expressing himself, not necessarily knowing the exact hour, but sensing the end was near.
Okay, so the father passes away. And then the family starts experiencing some truly remarkable things. First, those wind chimes. Our listener at their own house, miles away perhaps, heard continuous chime sounds on the night their father passed. Couldn't find where it was coming from. Only later, back at the mother's house, did they recognize the sound from the exact chimes their father had just put up. What was that?
That's a fascinating detail, the sound the listener heard. It wasn't his physical presence at their house. It was more like a strong thought stream. He was likely thinking intensely of the listener at that moment. He was still probably at his original home, maybe not even fully realizing he'd passed yet. His thoughts projected.
Wow, okay. Then, a couple of days later, the mother's driving to the temple. A police officer pulls her over, glances at the passenger seat, and asks why she's driving in the wrong lane, implying the man next to her that the father should be driving. The mother explains her husband just died. The officer got visibly unnerved, apparently, and just waved her on quickly.
That man the police officer saw, yes, that was indeed the father. In that initial period right after passing, especially with intense love and attachment like he had, he would follow the mother everywhere, just wanting to be near her. Sometimes people with certain sensitivities can perceive that.
Incredible. And what about the smells? The family kept smelling things, sometimes good odors, sometimes bad. And one night, the mother clearly heard the father's voice whispering right by her ear. She got really scared, shouted at it to stop.
These sensory things, smells, sounds not uncommon when a spirit is strongly attached and in that transitional phase. The whispering voice, that was him, absolutely. He'd likely just realized he was actually dead and simply wanted to talk to his wife, greet her like he always did. His intention wouldn't have been to frighten her, but just connection, out of love.
Right, just trying to communicate. So what does all this mean spiritually? This brings us to the listener's husband. He started meditating daily after the father's death, chanting Sama Araham, but with no specific goal or expectation. He described feeling peaceful, comfortable breathing, a cool sensation from his nose up to his eyes. Even when he lay down, the comfort stayed, and he kept chanting.
That practice, just focusing on the chant without striving for a specific outcome, that's actually a really good initial step in meditation. Not fully complete yet, but correct. And that cool, comfortable feeling, that's a positive sign. Shows a certain stillness starting to develop.
And through this meditation, he had this incredibly profound dream. He's meditating in the dream, then floats off to a place with suffering people. He floats past the father, grabs his hand, asks him if he's okay, if he knows he's dead. The father says yes, he knows. The husband then tells him about the mother going to Wat Phra Dhammakaya for meditation and says he'll build a Buddha statue for the father. At that point, both of them cry in the dream. Then the father says someone will pick him up on March 14th and that his body would turn into a little girl. The husband woke up really excited.
Okay, wow. That wasn't just a dream. That was a real encounter. The father was initially lingering, like we discussed, because of attachment. But the dream showed what was planned. District officials, celestial beings, were sent to escort him to a From Thiwa village. That's a realm for celestial beings. His wish to occasionally visit home, that was a special allowance, granted by a kind district head figure there, mainly because the family kept making merit for him. The dream reflected that reality. However, the part about turning into a little girl, that sounds like a jit niwarn, a kind of mental distortion or defilement manifesting in the dream state. It was a thought, maybe an old attachment, not his actual form. He was a normal From Thiwa being.
Interesting distinction. Okay, then about 20 days later, our listener has a dream herself. The father appears clearly at the door. He's wearing a white shirt this time, holding a brick pedestal. Tells her not to worry. He has food, he's well, but he has to go scold someone. Then disappears. She didn't get the scolding part until her sister told her the father had appeared in her dream too, scolding her for not holding the sign properly at the funeral.
Yes, this was also a real visitation, and the brick pedestal, highly symbolic. After the family built the Buddha statue for him, that brick pedestal essentially transformed. It became a golden pedestal, tongue and tie. It represents his new spiritual property, his improved standing in the From Thor realm, a direct result of the merit. And the scolding.
Well, it shows that personality traits and earthly concerns can linger for a while, even in the afterlife. Quite human, really.
It really is. Okay, one more dream. The husband specifically prayed for the listener to change her mind about visiting the temple and building the statue. Then the listener dreams again. The father comes to her, asks her not to call him often, says he doesn't want attachments, and that it was almost time for them to make a decision. He also seemed to imply he accepted his past actions. Another real one. The decision he mentioned. That refers to the process we talked about him, in the From Thiwa village, needing permission from the district head to visit his family because of his attachment. His ability to visit depended on getting that permission, and permission was granted because the family was consistently sending merit his way. His comment about accepting his actions shows his growing understanding of his karma, his situation. He's starting to let go.
Wow, so these dreams really pushed the listener. She told her husband, okay, let's go to Wat Phra Dhammakaya. They went with the mother. built a Buddha statue for the father, one for the husband, one for the listener, and they dedicated the merit to the father. A huge step.
An absolutely crucial step. Now, the listener asked if they could give all their merit to the father. Well, it's not quite possible to transfer all of your merit like that, but you absolutely can dedicate a significant share. And the most effective way to keep helping the father receive more merit is for the family to consistently practice dana generosity, sila morality, and bhavana meditation, especially visualizing the Buddha image, and then consciously dedicate that merit to him. Consistency is key.
And they saw a result quite directly, didn't they? The listener noticed that after building the statues, when the father appeared in her dream, he was wearing that white shirt and holding the pedestal. Before, in the husband's dream, he hadn't been wearing a shirt.
Exactly. That changed the white shirt, the transformed pedestal, now golden. That's direct confirmation. It signifies he received the merit from the Buddha statue dedication. It's a clear sign their efforts were successful, improving his state, his celestial property in the From Theoa realm. His form became more refined.
That's incredible feedback, really. Now, the listener also asked about her husband's family's spiritual background. Some family members help with merit-making, like funding Buddha statues, but they won't actually come to the temple. They argue Wat Dhammakaya is rich and doesn't need more money.
Yes, that's a common misconception we hear sometimes. It's important to clarify Wat Dhammakaya isn't rich in the sense of any individual owning wealth. It belongs to the Buddhist religion itself. The resources are used entirely for religious work, benefiting the whole community, supporting monks, spreading the teachings, building facilities for practice. It's not personal wealth, it's communal spiritual resource.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about deeper connections? Did the husband's parents and siblings have a history of making merit with this community before?
Yes, based on what we can see, the husband's parents and siblings have created merit with the community in past lives, though perhaps somewhat inconsistently. Often what we call provision-making merit. That means doing good deeds that ensure good future circumstances, like having enough resources, a comfortable life, rather than aiming directly for, say, enlightenment or higher meditative states right now. The listener should just continue gently guiding them. Patience and calmness are important. It might take time, but persistence often pays off.
And finally, what about the core group, our listener, her husband, and his brother, who acted as her spiritual friend, her Kalyana Mitra? What's their shared story?
All three of you, the listener, her husband, and the brother you have, built merit together with the community for many, many lifetimes. Also, often as this provision-making type of merit, you found each other again in this life because of those strong past connections. So the guidance would be to really dedicate yourselves fully now to all forms of merit, generosity, morality, and meditation. And maybe aspire to follow the special circle of the Boram Photisat, the Bodhisattvas. That aspiration helps ensure you stay together on the spiritual path, life after life, never separated.
What an incredible journey into the unseen, really, all stemming from one family's very deep, very personal experience. We've seen how that intense love and attachment can keep a spirit connected, and how powerful acts of merit, consistently performed, can genuinely transform someone's situation in the afterlife. Even bend the rules a bit, it seems.
Absolutely. This deep dive really highlights the power of our intention, doesn't it? And how interconnected we all are, even across the boundary of physical death. The family's consistency in sending merit wasn't just a nice gesture. It had tangible effects. It allowed the father that special permission to visit, really showing the impact our spiritual actions can have.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If dedicating merit, if these conscious acts can create such profound shifts in those subtle realms, influencing things beyond what we normally see, what else are we capable of influencing? What other connections are we shaping right now through our actions, our intentions in this very life? Something to ponder. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this exploration has given you some new perspectives, some new insights to reflect upon.